In this video, we're going to talk about lists in Python. And lists are one of the objects that Python has for us to store collections of information in. Let's say we want to store a collection of numbers. Well, the way you define a list is with square brackets. And then inside the square brackets, you include whatever elements you want to keep track of, and you separate them with a comma. So let's say we want 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, and just for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to throw another 42 on there, just to show you, a list can store identical objects, so we can have more than one of the same sort of thing in there. Okay, so I pressed enter, nothing happens because all that Python did was create this list. So if I say print nums, my list is called nums, so Python will spit out exactly what I put in. Notice it's also in the same order, which is important. So lists maintain their order in Python. Now if I want to reference objects in this list, elements in this list, I type the name of my list, and then with square brackets attached to it, I type the element I want to get. So let's say I want to get this 8. I would type nums1. Just like other programming languages, Python starts counting things at 0. So the first element in the list is actually element 0, which is the 4. We can also get, if I try to type something like this, like, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I try to type num7, that doesn't return the last item in the list. It actually tells me that my index is out of range. So there are 7 elements here, but this last element is element number 6. So I can't type a 7 because I don't have an element in that place. We can also access multiple items in the list at once. And so let's say I want to get the second element to the end. I would type a 2 and a colon. That would print everything from the second position, which is 15, on. We can go the other way as well. We can type colon, and let's say 5. Let's say 2 actually. And that prints the elements up to but not including element number 2. So we included it here, not inclusive here. So we got elements 0 and 1. So it's important to know sort of which sort of things are inclusive and which are exclusive. Now we can't go past the end of the list with 7, but we can wrap around backwards. So I can reference element -1. That brings up the last element in the list, 42. So we have the 0th element is 4, and the -1 element is 42 here. Just to prove that's the correct 42, let's type -2. So we got 42. So this is the last one. This is the second to last one. Okay. We can also store not just numbers, but strings. So let's say I have a list of names. Let's say they are John, Pete, and Mitch. So now I have a list of names. Even though these are a list of names, I can call them the same way. So I can say, I want names 1. And it tells me that is the string Pete. All right. If I type just names, then I could return the whole list. You can also store a mixed list. So I can store a list that is 5, Pete, and 42. If I type values, it returns my list. So lists can kind of store whatever you want. You can even store lists inside of list if you want. So let's call this list insep. And I now let's put the nums list in here and the names list in here. So now my list insep has 2 lists inside of it. So if I tell it to put this, so here is the first list, which is my numbers, and then my second list, which is my names. So we can sort of nest our lists inside of each other, which can be useful. Now lists are what we call mutable, and that means we can edit them, we can change them, as opposed to something like a tuple, where we cannot change it. So lists, we can change the order, we can add things to them, we can take things out of them, and so let's just look at some of those methods. So let's do nums.append. So the append method adds an item to the end of a list. So if I do nums.append, so let's show my list here. So I added 45 to the end of the list that already existed. I can also do the insert method. Let's insert 7. The insert method can be used to insert an element at a desired index. So it'll move everything to the right. So 7 is the number I want to insert. Or sorry. We have to declare the index first and then the object. So I want to insert this at the second position. Insert a 7. So notice in the second position, I inserted a 7 and moved everything to the right. So remember 15 was there, so we inserted a 7, moved everything to the right. All right, the remove method removes a value. So we can just type in the value we want to get rid of, and it'll take it out. So let's get rid of one of the 40. Let's get rid of 23. So I want to remove 23. And now it is gone from the list. So it doesn't matter where in the list it is. It just finds that item, that element, and takes it out. We have one more method that I want to show you. There are several more you can look up on your own. That's the pop method. And the pop method will take an item out at the index you put in. So if you want to take the first item out, you can put a 0. If you want to take the last item out, you can put a -1. And you could do, whatever index you want. So let's take out the last item. Let's pop -1. And so this tells us what element it popped when you use this method. And then if I print this, notice that our last element is gone. So that's kind of nice. It tells us which element we took out. Okay. Now we have a command which is different than a method. And it's called delete, or del is how we type it. So this removes multiple elements in our list by index. So let's say I want to remove everything from 7 on. I could do nums2 : so this is going to say delete all of the entries from 2 on. So now we're just left with 4 and 8. Okay. I have, and so in addition to removing multiple items, we could add multiple items using the extend method. Nums.extend. And then inside here, I'm going to put a list. So let's say I want to add 29, 12, 14, and 26. So we return this, and our list has been extended. We also have a number of other commands that come in handy. We can do min. These are not commands, sorry, these are functions. And so if I put in min nums, it returns the minimum number. Not the first number, but the least number. We can do max. We can also do sum, which obviously returns the sum of our list. One last useful method for you is the sort method. So we do nums.sort. There's no argument here, but we still need the parentheses because it is a method. And that just sorts the list for us. All right, so that is a little bit about lists and some useful methods to go along with them. We will talk more about data types and lists in further videos.